And then we started talking, and the subject was basically psychedelic plants. We were talking about SOMA, which was very much my interest. It was clear that there was a psychedelic plant, there was a psychedelic potion, which was a sacrament and became the source of all of the Vedas. You know, a lot of the stanzas in Rig Veda are about Soma, how it grows, how you prepare it, and then what happens to people when they take Soma, half of them being on the earth, half of them being in heaven. And the potion was considered so powerful that it was given a name of the god. Soma is the name of the god. And somehow in the course of history, the secret of it got lost. Nobody knows now exactly what the plant was, and of course we cannot then identify what the active alkaloid is. And the part of me that is scientific really was having a painful experience that there was a missing link, and if we could fill in that knowledge, we would know more about psychedelics and how the mind functions and so on. So one of my interests was, to find out somehow what Soma might have been. So we started talking about it. It turned out that he knew that Soma was still being used in India, and then on his birthday there were Vedic priests coming down, and they were actually taking Soma ritually. Later, he actually wanted to arrange for us the meeting with these priests, and then we were supposed to go there in May, and in October he died, so we never really connected with this tradition. But anyway, so we talked about Soma, and then he went and started talking about ganja, about charas, about bhang, which are the different marijuana-type derivatives of hashish, and how people use it wrong in the West, and how some of the Brahmins do it right. You grow it sort of with a lot of reverence, and you soak it in water for 14 days, and so then they smoke it, in chillams, and then they lie on the ice in the Himalayas in ecstasy. So we spend, the darshan pretty much talking these kinds of things, and I thought this is the way it's going to stay. The darshan was slowly coming to an end, and then suddenly Baba reached sort of behind him. There was, in the ashram, there was a thing about sweets. There was a place called the Amrit, which was a shop that had the best and the sweetest confections and sweet tea and coffee, Siddha Yoga coffee. And he was always giving candy as prasad. And he said the Shakti likes candy, likes the sweets. So he had a big can of almond roca, and he sort of reached for it, took a couple of them, shoved it into my mouth, and then was sort of slapping me over the head, over the face, and then also kicking me in the shin. And then he sort of lifted me and was pushing me out of the door. And Christina was sort of following, and then on the way he said, we'll be having 2 intensives here, which were kind of weekends, like something like what we are doing here, where people meditate, and he was also giving what's called Shaktipat, sort of awakening of Kundalini. And he said, we'll have 2 consecutive intensives. They are on Kashmir Shaivism. He says, it's going to be very interesting for you. Just come as my guests. And that was it. We ended up in front of the door. There were people lined up, because as you know, in these spiritual centers, a lot of people had psychedelics. It opened them for spirituality, and then they try to find some other ways of entering those spaces. So in many of these ashrams, you find people who have some psychedelic history. So there were all these people within Siddha Yoga who had done some psychedelics and had some conflicts about it and didn't know if Baba approved or didn't approve. And they knew that if we have some conversation, the psychedelics very likely will come up. So this, did Baba talk about LSD? And what did he say about psychedelics? And I felt tremendously reluctant to discuss anything with anybody. I felt something was churning in my head. And I wanted to be alone. I wanted to know what was happening. So there was a large hall in Oakland, and I walked to the furthest corner. I sat down with my back into the corner, and I closed my eyes and went into a meditative state. I wanted to know what was happening. And like within a second, I just completely lost it. And I went into this place which was the void, which was, the closest thing I can compare it to from the phenomenal world was like being somewhere in the middle of the universe, interstellar space, where there is absolutely nothing. There are no celestial bodies, just a sense of total emptiness, vastness, and just incredible peace. There was still consciousness there, but there were no realities around me. And when I opened my eyes again, there's lots and lots of time passed, and I just had no recollection. There was just absolutely empty space, and that impressed me because, first of all, I had a couple of almond rocas, and those slaps were. I thought that was a pretty good technique, for evoking that kind of depth of an altered consciousness.